Big Al Mac has a PSA for Kid Nation because it's about that time of the year where not only the scary people come out in their costumes, but the real scary people start showing their face.
Correct, JC. My mom called me a couple of nights ago and said, I just talked to your son, Peyton, and I'm like, because he's in town visiting my other son, Corey, staying with him. And then she said, he's in jail. And my first thought was, why would he call my mother and not me? And she said he was in a car accident. It wasn't his fault, and somebody hit him. But he did have like a bloody nose or broken nose or something, and they took him to the hospital. And while he was in the hospital, they gave him a blood alcohol test, and he didn't pass, so they took him to jail. And
so the accident wasn't his fault, but he was still drunk driving.
Right. That was the story. And so and he needed $5,000 to get out of jail. And me and myself, I'm like, of course, I'm 100% believing this because she said she talked to him. He told her to not call any other family members like me or anybody else, and because he didn't want us to know. And then I'm throwing up air quotes, the attorney called my mom as well and said that kind of reiterated the story and something peculiar that my mom said, that he wanted the $5,000 in $100 bills. But
what kind of lawyer is this?
Right, a lawyer, bails bond. She wasn't real clear on what his position actually was. But anyway, again, my mom is telling me the story and said that she had talked to Peyton. So I'm still, even though it sounded fishy, I was like, well, you talked to him. The attorney is pushing for the cash, obviously. And then my mom says, well, I don't have that kind of cash. And he said, then another peculiar thing that my mom was telling me, she said, well, what do you have? Because maybe I can get the bond reduced. How much can you come up with? So again, I don't deal with jail a lot. And so it doesn't sound like it's beyond the realm of possibility, but it still sounds a little peculiar. So, anyway, but fortunately, my mom was calling me and she told me all of this. And my mom said, oh, and I don't drive. And the guy says, well, we can send a cab to pick you up to take you to the bank. I mean, there were all kinds of things. They're trying to work this deal.
Oh my God.
So the following morning, I'm still mad. I'm like, I'm making the decision like, well, he's just got to sit in jail. You know what I'm saying? So,
and honestly, Al told me this the next morning. And I've never seen Al. You looked really sad. First of all, you felt sad.
I was,
and you were angry. And you don't ever see Al feeling this ever. He's the happiest, go luckiest dude ever. And
so I told, like I said, like you said, I told JC, I told Kelly, and we were kind of talking about it. And Kelly said later on in the morning, Kelly said, "This just sounds fishy." And are you sure that this is legit? And so I'm like, well, my mother told me she talked to Peyton. So I guess it was after we went off the air, but before I left, I sent a text message to Peyton's number as well as to Corey's number and saying, hey, Peyton, how you doing? Give me a call. About an hour later, Peyton did text me back and said, hey, Dad, how you doing? I said, how are the tires on your car? Because it had been raining. He said, they're fine. I mean, I'm like, have you been in an accident in the last day or two? No.
Okay.
Have you talked to your grandmother in the last day or two? We said, I talked to her 3 days ago. And so I didn't even tell him exactly what went down right then. I just immediately hung up and called my mother to tell her that this was 100% a scam. So now you're saying, how did Peyton talk to my mother, his grandmother? He didn't. But the person that called said, hey, grandma, or this is your grandson or something.
Never said his name.
Never said his name. And my mother probably said, Peyton?
And he's like, yeah.
And he went with that.
Oh, my
And
God.
so then they were off to the races. Now, and just by the grace of God, my mother did not send any money. And my mom could have. She's got a heart that would have, oh, baby, okay. It just fortunately, and she called me, because that could have been $5,000 of her money or whatever amount it was that we would never have gotten back, much less if they had sent a car to pick her up.
Oh, my God.
I could have possibly never seen my mom again.
At that point, it's kidnapping, dude. It's a form of kidnapping if you're getting money out.
I mean, who knows how deep these people would go just stay in communication with your folks, especially the folks that are a little older that are more susceptible to this type of thing.